What is going on, guys? Ben here, back with another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the Retroid Pocket Classic. This is a really nifty little handheld. This is a vertical style handheld with an OLED screen. I don't know the exact dimensions. I think it's 31 by 27, but as you can see, it's like a small little handheld. This is a one-hander, as one would say, and I'm not talking about something that is below my belly button. That's a two-hander. 3 on a good day. Anyways, I have a Switch 2, I have a Steam Deck OLED, I have a gaming computer. Why even play this thing? I grew up on a Game Boy Advanced SP. I played Metroid Zero Mission probably 50 times over and over as a kid. I didn't really want to play anything else. And I still am, playing that game on this device. There are only a few systems that this really makes sense with. And I'm talking about emulation. So Game Boy Advance games, Game Boy Color, amazing, absolutely phenomenal. I have been playing Metroid Zero Mission on this thing. I beat it on this thing within like 3 days because I'm addicted to it. I'm a psycho and I love that game. But like other Metroid Fusion, Super Mario Advance, every single Game Boy game looks incredible on this thing. By the way, before we get started, this video is sponsored by Charge. They make these awesome looking battery accessories for iPhone, MacBook. They sent me this really beautiful 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank. You can just take the charger and plug it right into the wall, which is honestly great. Like, I hate having a wire going to the battery bank. You literally just put this right into the wall and it can charge my iPad Pro from 0 to 100% no problem, and it looks awesome. Like, I want to just display it. It's kind of got that nothing vibe, which I really like. They also sent me this battery MagSafe bank that is LED powered as well, holds a full iPhone charge, I think a charge and a half. It's so cool. If you guys want to check out Charge products, I will put in the link in the description below. And thank you, Charge, for sponsoring this video. Real quick tidbit of information though, I got MBoy on this device and I purchased it on the Play Store, and there is a significant amount of input latency with that emulator. So I actually moved over to RetroArch, and it took me like 20 minutes of like configuring everything the way I like it, but there's pretty much no input delay with RetroArch. So if you do get an Android handheld of any capacity, get RetroArch for Game Boy Advance games. Anyways, it is one of the best screens I've ever seen on a portable device. It has an OLED screen that gets up to 500 nits of brightness. It is so beautiful. Absolutely, like every game pops out of the screen, even though it's a smaller screen, so it's a bit less immersive because it's an OLED panel. It is so, like, it's about as immersive as it can get with this size panel. Games that you used to play look brand new, like they literally came out last week. Especially if you do some upscaling and things like that. This screen makes every game look beautiful. It's just such a joy to pick up and play. And really, it's surprising every single time you pick it up and play it. Like, how is this tiny little device making these games look so good? Well, I think it has to do with that OLED display, right? So yes, and then also in terms of build quality, I will say I'm used to more horizontal handhelds. I have a Steam Deck OLED, Switch 2, as I said, and those are what I'm used to. So they are more comfortable for me personally. I am getting a little bit cramped holding this device for more than 20 minutes. Even though that it is much lighter than most handhelds, it's also like a weird shape, right? And it's so small that you kind of have to hold it up with your pinkies because you can't really do a full grip on it with both your hands. I have massive hands, by the way. They're like some of the biggest ever made by Jesus. So definitely something that I have to get used to, and I am getting used to. But yes, there is a bit of a learning curve related to the shape of the handheld with these vertical ones. But if you've owned some in the past, you know what it feels like. Obviously, like the Game Boy Advance SP, others like it. But anyways, yes, the build quality and fit and finish of this device is phenomenal. I got it in this lime green, and I got a green wallpaper, so it's this cute little like Adventure Time vibe that I'm going for with this thing, and it's just wonderful. And the buttons on this thing are nice and quiet, but also kind of tactile too. Really just like, you get this kind of warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feeling when you're playing on something like this that you really can't get on any other sort of modern device, right? So yeah, I absolutely love the hardware for what they're going for with this thing. In terms of software, it is running Android 14. So if you've ever used a gaming handheld with Android, you know how this works. but pretty much you have access to most all emulators, so even up to Wii U and Switch, which obviously is not going to run on something like this. You know, all the way up to PS2, I believe this thing can play. And actually, I have been playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 on this device, which is crazy. It runs at 60 FPS, and you don't need the analog stick for that game. You can just use the D-pad, and it's a fighting game, so D-pad works better anyways. And it's crazy that it plays on this thing because it's sort of that 4:3 aspect ratio, or it's 31:27, but it's pretty much 4:3. It looks so cool and retro to play one of these like PS2 games on a device like this, and it runs really nice. So yeah, over the last week, I started with a few Android games and realized that, yeah, most Android games require that you have an analog stick to play. So I just kind of, like, I tried Minecraft, which then I started playing it. I'm like, there's like a million buttons that I need for this game, and it's not gonna work. So, you know, you'll come to realize that most games don't make sense from the Android store with this device. This is really primarily a emulation retro device. So I am playing Game Boy Advance SP, or I guess Game Boy Advance games, and PlayStation 2 games on this device. I also really like the features within RetroArch. So, you know, very quick pause and resume. You can fast forward pretty easily, which is something you can't do on Switch 2's Game Boy emulation. As well, there's upscaling options and pause and you know, save states, loading states. Like, once you get it all dialed in right, it's just a treat. And you can get any Game Boy Advance game that you could possibly think of. If you go on a couple websites I will not mention, they're very scary websites. They make me afraid. But yeah, once you figure out, you know, you can just scroll through top 50 best Game Boy Advance games, download all 50, put them on this thing, and just have a blast exploring all these older titles. I mean, there was so much love put into that system. It was one of the highest selling video game consoles of all time, and playing it on this device is just such a treat. So yeah, am I going to be keeping the Retroid Pocket Classic? Absolutely. I think it is a great secondary device. If you know, I have a Steam Deck OLED and a Nintendo Switch 2, so those are definitely my like go-to when it comes to higher end stuff, right? Like Elden Ring. Like, I don't think Elden Ring on this device would be very pleasant. I would die probably a bit more than usual. So yeah, that was my review of the Retroid Pocket Classic. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, and subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. If we get 1,000 subscribers, I'll change my name to Ben Govrik. Like, I'll actually do that. So, yep. See you guys later.